What is the greatest comic book superhero movie ever made? It's a simple enough question. I'm sure when you heard it just now, most of you had a film come to mind as the clear answer.
Are you sure about that?
How could you be? I was fairly confident in my own answer to this question, but then doubt crept its way in. Had I watched every single comic book superhero movie? Had I even heard of them all? How many of these films were out there? At this point, there was only one unreasonable course of action I could take. I ventured forth and scoured the internet to come up with a comprehensive list of 128 films that met my criteria. Number 1. The movie must be based on a comic book or graphic novel. Essentially, the comic book has to predate the movie's production. This removes films like Darkman, The Toxic Avenger, and Super from consideration. Number 2. The movie must be about a superhero or supervillain, so Venom and Harley can stick around, though this does eliminate films like Scott Pilgrim, 300, and Howard the Duck. And finally, number 3. The movie must have had a full theatrical release. This removes a lot of films from the running. The old Captain America TV movie, Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, and most of Marvel and DC's animated catalog. This third criteria may be a bit controversial, but, it's my list. I can do what I want. Now that the hard part was out of the way, I could finally move on to the other hard part. You see, before I could figure out which movie was best, I had to figure out how to figure out which movie was best. And what exactly was the best way to determine the greatest once and for all? Obviously, it was by pitting these films against each other head to head in a March Madness-style tournament bracket. To have a tournament, each film had to be seeded so they could be placed properly in the bracket. To assist me on this front, I reached out to some friends and asked them to fill out a short, quick, 128-question survey. From memory, rate each movie on a scale of 1 to 10. For movies you haven't seen, guess a rating based on what you've heard about the movie. For films you've never heard of, feel free to look the film up or not, and then guess a rating between 1 and 5. I thought it better to err on the lower end for movies we'd never heard of. This way we don't overestimate them, and we might see some fun upsets during the tournament. With all this data gathered and compiled, I had the preliminary rankings for each film. The higher ranked a film is, the more confident we'd be guessing it as the ultimate winner. Keep in mind though, this ranking serves no purpose in the actual tournament other than placing the films into the brackets for their first round matchups. The films were then divided into 4 tournament brackets. The Spider Bracket. Number 1 seed, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The Bat Bracket. Number 1 seed, The Dark Knight. The Galactic Bracket. Number 1 seed, Guardians of the Galaxy. The Hell Bracket. Number 1 seed, Hellboy. A link to the full tournament bracket, as well as the list of movies and data gathered for this endeavor, are in the description below this video. With all the preparations completed, the only thing left to do was actually watch the movies. So I've gotten friends together for double feature movie nights, during each of which we watch one matchup from the bracket, discuss the merits of each film, argue about which one is better, and vote on the movie that should move on to the next round. So, what is the greatest comic book superhero movie ever made? I don't know yet, but I'm sure gonna find out.